الإيمان أن السلام حياة قد جاء في القرآن أن السلام.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another episode of iTREND on ITV. Once again, thank you for all your feedback and comments. We truly appreciate it, and we're keeping in touch with what is going on in our country, in our world, in our communities on a regular basis. Tomorrow is the 3rd of March, which is the World Hearing Awareness Day, and we're touching on that very briefly. Many of you know that is my profession. That is something that I am very passionate about, something that I am very focused on as well. So I do urge you all to make sure you get regular hearing tests, not just for yourselves, but for your children as well, because let's always work on prevention rather than cure. Let's be hearing aware. There will be a number of audiologists doing hearing screenings tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll manage to find one in your area and make sure you get that hearing screened. At the same time, with hearing awareness, the government is currently running a Global Entrepreneurship Month. And this is taking place throughout the month of March. And we decided to find out a little bit more about entrepreneurship and also showcase many women, females. We're not excluding the males, but we're hoping to just do a little bit more focus to show entrepreneurs within our communities that have taken this very bold step. And we will feature them through this month of March and bring those stories directly to you. But what a better way to kick off Global Entrepreneurship Month than to be talking to someone who has literally not just to put her foot into that, but has dived wholesalely into this, and is going to give us insight into what it is to be an entrepreneur. Welcome to the studio, Nureya. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
It's such a pleasure to have you on air.
Thank you for having me. It's actually a pleasure to be here.
Nureya, you're actually a CA by profession, but you sit on a number of boards. You're involved in a number of trusts. Tell us a little bit about who Nureya is.
Well, yeah, I am a chartered accountant by profession, but I'm no longer employed within the profession anymore. I'm now what you would call a non-executive director. I sit on the boards of Delta Property Fund, which is a listed property fund, as well as a trust called the Innovator Trust. The Innovator Trust is essentially an enterprise development arm of a large corporate. It's actually Vodacom's enterprise development. And we're very fortunate in this country. You spoke about entrepreneurship, but we're very fortunate in South Africa that the government is really pushing entrepreneurship. So they have made it compulsory for all corporates to contribute towards enterprise development, and now with the new legislations, they're insisting on supplier development as well. So there's a combination of supplier and enterprise, and that is wonderful news for all entrepreneurs because it means there's access to funding. If you have the right products and you have the right market, there's access to funding. So we're actually quite fortunate. So that is one of the things I'm very passionate about, is women empowerment in particular, and of course economic empowerment in general. And that's one of the reasons I went to sit on the Innovator Trust, was because I loved the idea of what they were doing. It's quite focused on the ICT sector, unfortunately, this one, but there's a lot of other corporates that do their ED via these kind of vehicles as well, in terms of as incubators.
And I think that's what's so important and why we wanted to use you in our first kickoff for the month of entrepreneurship, because many people don't even know where to start or what it means to be an entrepreneur. I think it's in our genes to have good business skills. It's in our genes to want to go out there to make a difference. But how do we take that step from saying, I have all these fabulous ideas? How do I do that next step of saying, I'm making this a reality, I'm going to take this forward? Because like you're saying, there are so many options also of funding, but many of us don't even know how to access it. I've got friends who are sitting at government level who's saying, we are encouraging people to come in, entrepreneurs. We want people to come. We'll promote customers. We'll give you customer bases. I mean, recently a friend of mine has been sitting at the government shows that are taking place in Cape Town at the moment for entrepreneurs. And they're saying, here's a platform. If you are ready for trading, log into this account, to this website, and we will, and you can go ahead. But how do you think it's the fear, firstly, that stops us from taking that next step to make ourselves entrepreneurs? So let's talk about the psychological aspect, and then we'll talk about what it takes to actually do to take us to that next level.
So the main thing is fear. I mean, our society is built around success, not failure. People are actually scared to fail. But to be an entrepreneur, you need to take that step in order and not be afraid to fail. You need to actually try again. You need to come to terms with the fact that you might be rejected. And actually, it's okay. If you're rejected, it's okay. It's not a problem. I'm going to try again. Don't give up. So if you have a product and you believe in your product, okay, you are going to be getting knocks along the way as you go along. You are going to tell people, no, it's not for us. But then you need to change and evolve and grow. So failure needs to not be seen as failure per se, but it needs to be seen as a stepping stone to success, as does rejection. You don't just accept rejection and walk off with your tail between your legs, so to speak. Okay? You say, okay, this has not worked. What am I going to do next to make it work? The other key thing with entrepreneurs is actually, and this is we're finding with the Innovator Trust, is actually to be prepared or organized, if to use the correct word. If you do a lot of research in the field that you want to, I mean, everybody's got access to computers and the internet these days. All you need to do, we have Google. All you need to do is research. Go online and see where there are access to funds. There are innumerable incubators out there. The first thing you need to do is look at your own business, okay, and look for a gaps analysis. So see what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, where you're falling down, okay, and then try and get either help, ask for help, get help for the areas where you are weak, and focus on strengthening the areas where you are strong. And that way you have your entire business covered. So for example, if you're a strong marketing person, but you're bad with admin, make sure that somebody is helping you to take care of your admin. So for example, at the Innovator Trust, what we actually do there is we essentially gear up towards funding entrepreneurs via incubators. So we have we've chosen 4 incubators. I'll name them. One is called Kulia, one is called the Barn, the Shanduka Black Umbrellas, and Race Corp. There's 4 incubators that we utilize because we focused on the ICT sector, sorry. And what we do is those incubators will basically assess an entrepreneur that comes to them for funding. They will then, if you are successful, okay, put you on a 3-year plan, a program. Each one has an established program where they will assess all your gaps. They will then assist you to fill in those gaps. They will pay for everything as well. So the corporates fund for you to, so if you need staff, if you need to go to Gibbs to learn a bit about how to take management skills, they will facilitate all of that on a 3-year program for you. And if that 3-year program is successful, then the Innovator Trust will then take it a step further, and we will then market you to the likes of Vodacom. We will put you out at fairs. We will provide you with airspace on shows and those kind of things so that your business can grow. So there's innumerable options there.
So what I love about the fact is that we're not just seeing this at government level, but we're seeing this at corporate private levels as well. That's encouraging entrepreneurship in our communities.
Well, it's fortunate. I mean, government obviously is driving it, and it makes it legislation, which then forces the corporate to do that. But it's in their interests to then do it. And so it's being done. And you know what, it's people, I suppose, that are passionate about it that will take it to the next level. And obviously, you know, the people at the Innovator Trust are passionate about it, and that's why we take it. But it's not the only one. There are numerous organizations out there, and you need to find the one that essentially fits your profile for the entity that you're involved in, essentially. I think people need to do that.
I think the one thing you mentioned is the fact that you need to find your strength, what works for you as an entrepreneur. And I think very often, I mean, we had a chat off air as well, and very often as women, as mums, we think, oh, we can manage everything in the day. And at the end of the day, something always gives. It's either something with our businesses or with our families, or most of the time, it's things with us, where we feel so depleted at the end of the day because you've given so much and so much. And by the end of it, you're just completely depleted. And the one thing that Nurea mentioned was, know where your skills are, know where your strengths are, and then never being afraid of asking for help. And I think as women, and I know for myself, we very often think we just can't ask for help. I can just manage to do this on my own. And there are people willing to help. And the one thing that you mentioned, and I think it would be nice to discuss it now, is about being organized and getting that help.
Yes. I think if you want to start out as an entrepreneur, the first thing you need to work out is that it's very, very stressful to start any new business. And to grow, even if you've got an existing business, to grow it, it's extremely stressful. So you need to make sure that all your ducks are in a row, okay, when you're starting this business. And it starts at home. So you actually need to get the support and buy-in in your own home environment before you can move out. So you need to first speak to your husband, assess what's going on in your family. And I mean, I can testify to that, you know. I was working from 7 to 7 with 3 children, married. Something gives. We cannot be everything to everyone as women. So we need to be kind to ourselves. And we need to put the support system in place first. So essentially, if you know that every day you're going to be coming home at 7 o'clock, have someone cook for you and fetch your kids, get an au pair, essentially. And make sure that your support structure is in place in order for you to function as stress-free as possible. And I think that's the key, is that, and if you're organized in advance, okay, everything will run smoothly. But if you're not organized, then the stress kicks in, and that's when trouble happens. But the other area to also be organized is within your business. So when you start looking at this, you also need to make major decisions in terms of starting out. What kind of a business do I want? Do I want it to grow significantly? Because then it works out, you have to decide what type of entity you use. And that's a very important thing in business, is what entity you're using. Because if you need to go out for funding, or you need to go and get help from all these incubators or any corporate to help you as a supplier, okay, you need to show them records. So you need to set up a company. Rather than, you can either be a sole proprietor or you can be a company, but I would suggest that it's best to do a company, a PTY, private company. Have that set up, have records, get an accountant in place, get someone to do your admin if you are not, where you're keeping records. The biggest fall down we find among small business people is that they're busy selling, okay, but they're not actually keeping up with their records. They actually don't know where they are. So what happens in that instance is your cash flow management falls down, okay? And then you don't have cash and you don't know why. And then you need cash, but now you can't go to the banks because you don't have accounts, because you've not been taking care of your back office. As boring as that part of a business is.
And that's probably a very pivotal part, as you mentioned, because like you're saying, we're so busy with just selling and getting ourselves out there. And I know for many of the home businesses as well, and that's where it seems to be the shortfall of taking that step of getting bigger, is that we're so busy trying to market and just put ourselves out there that all that admin falls by the wayside, and we forget how important that is.
That's exactly one of the key issues that is focused on by incubators, is to help people to understand that the business is actually 3 areas. It's your sales and marketing, it's your operations, which is basically your products, and your costing of your products, which is a key thing that people get wrong, actually. And if you cost your product wrong, you're not going to actually make a profit. And the third thing is your financial and admin and governance. So, sorry. So you need to have your admin in order as well. So those are the 3 areas, and the one that obviously is left often by entrepreneurs is the financial, admin, and governance.
So because let me ask you then, do you think it's advisable for anyone who is watching, who wants to get involved in being an entrepreneur, who knows that they have the ability to do it, to take that push, to take that next step, knowing they may fail along the way a number of times, but is willing to do it? Do you advise that they almost get a team behind them, or do you think any one entrepreneur should be capable of fulfilling all those roles?
Look, I don't think it's possible for everyone to be everything. It's not. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. We can grow, and I can personally testify to the fact that I'm terrible with admin myself. Okay, so I can understand that issue. But I think when you're a small organization, it is difficult, okay, to do it, you might not be able to pay the staff, okay. But that's where you need to start looking for help. There are organizations out there that will help you. They will get you the people to do the admin. They will pay for you, okay? Either for you to get the training if it's a very small organization, or if you are bigger and you've got sales and you're actually producing a product, they will then pay for somebody to come work for you, to take care of that. Or you can even do a simple thing like get an accountant. So you simply get an outsourced accountant, and as your business grows, then you get the resource in. But there's a lot of ways to make sure that the gaps are filled, that you're not. But you cannot be everything to everyone. You can start off that way, but if you want to grow and progress and be profitable, you need the balance.
I love that. So we're going to be sitting and making sure we identify our skills and our strengths, and moving forward how we can get the best that we need to. We'll be going for a quick ad break. When we get back, we'll be discussing a little bit further about how to take that next step into being a successful entrepreneur. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the show where we're discussing Global Entrepreneurship Month with Zaheerah Khan, who is an expert in a field. And if you've been watching, you know we've gone straight into the meat of the situation and the meat of what global entrepreneurship is. And the amount of information we're getting both on air and off air is very valuable. So we're hoping that we will remember to bring you all that information together. Zaheerah, the one thing that you mentioned when you were talking about what the 3 points are for an entrepreneur, and we discussed a little bit off air as well, is about the business proposal. How important is it to actually put down onto paper what you want, and how do you effectively sell that to somebody else? Because in your head, you know exactly what you want to do. You know it's a winner, but how do you sell that to somebody else?
So the key thing to do is to put together a business plan. And I know not everybody can do a business plan, but you can certainly try. So the first thing, all incubators, and it's anyone that basically is going to look at assisting you in a business, they need to see a business plan. And the simplest thing is to use the structure that I worked on earlier, where I said you need to look at your sales and marketing. Okay, you need to see, so it's basically who you're going to be selling and what's your market. And then it's going to be in terms of your costing side. When I say operations, I mean essentially what is the cost of your product? What kind of working capital are you going to need for the business? Okay, what are employee costs will you have? So you need to take into account all of the costs of your business in getting to your product, and that will then determine your pricing. Okay, you need to put that together, and then you need to put it together in a financial model to make sure that you are essentially generating a profit. If you're not generating a profit, then why are you in business, essentially? So your first port of call is to try and get a business plan together. If you don't know how to do a business plan, there is an option of looking out for coaches or mentors, and there are organizations that will assist you out there. As I said, research it. There are people out there that will assist you with putting a business plan together. They can sit with you, but if you don't have a business plan, you won't even get a leg in the door with any organization in terms of getting funding or support for your proposal. Because without a business plan, a business means nothing.
But so where's the first place that they would even step into to find assistance for a business plan? Because there are many organizations, like we mentioned. I know SANZF is one of them that also offers these entrepreneurship programs. But also, again, everyone has to come with a business plan. And sometimes when I look at business plans, I think that's almost the way you sell yourself, the way you're selling everything that you believe in. And if it's not put together properly, it becomes a problem. So where do people even find someone to help them with it?
Well, look, it is a difficult thing, make no bones about that. I mean, but different organizations actually have started providing help for that. So for example, the industrial development, the IDC, where I used to work, okay, what they have done is they have put a team of people on the ground. You can go Google the IDC, and they will have a list of people that will assist you on their website.
Fantastic.
Okay, that will help you prepare your business plan. They will sit with you. Obviously, it comes at a cost, but if you can't do it yourself, but essentially it's worth the investment because they are subsidizing. So in the IDC's case, from what I understand, they subsidize the business people that do the business plan. So you won't have a major cost, but they will expect some contribution. So a lot of organizations have instituted those kind of programs because they realize entrepreneurs are struggling out there. They've got everything in their head, but to put it down in paper. So it's again comes down to research. So in your field or in the area where you want to go. So if you are a home industry person, go and Google. Okay, go online. I mean, as I said before, everybody's got access to the internet. Yes. You use the internet to research where you can get the help that you need. And if you're going to the IDC for funding, that would be a slightly bigger business, obviously. There are people on their website that will help you. For example, if you want to go to SANZF, I'm sure if you call them, they will be able to give you immediately a list of people that could help you. In fact, I was watching last night on this program. There was a gentleman that actually does that. That was on your legal,
the
legal Legalese show. And he was saying that he puts funding together. And he also knows people that do business plans for entrepreneurs. So the help is out there.
It's just stepping into the right one. Earlier you mentioned about knowing your sales, knowing your profits, knowing your marketing. I find that with social media, the marketing has almost managed to sort itself out very easily comparatively to before, to being able to put your product out there. But with many of the ladies that we work with and many of the ladies that we chat to, the small ideas of just knowing what sales are and what profits are seems to elude everyone. And I know it sounds so simple and it sounds like something that we should be knowing as a standard. But very often I've heard ladies saying, but let me just get out there. Once my foot is in the door, once I've got my customers, then I'll look properly at my pricing structure and I'll increase it and make a bigger profit. What's the right way to go about doing that?
Well, I think basically you need, it's again comes down to preparation and research. Okay, it's very easy to say, I'm going to go in at a certain price and then come in and increase it to make a profit later. That never does materialize, because once you're out in the market, you will lose customers if you just automatically put your product up. The only way to actually put your the price of your product up, the only way to put your price up is if you can differentiate yourself. So a key factor to focus on when you are doing your marketing and you setting your pricing is actually, firstly, have a look at the competition around you. Research who the competitors are in your area. So, if you're doing, as you say, the common thing with us ladies is all the makeup sales. I mean, even I get confused looking at the amount of makeup out there nowadays. So research who your competition actually is. See where they are setting prices. Okay, so don't try and be the cheapest necessarily. Try and differentiate yourself. How can you differentiate yourself? But if your costing is too high, then you need to work out how can you bring that lower to be competitive in this market if you don't have another differentiator. So you need to firstly look at what is your product, okay? Around, is there a differentiator? Is there something that people would want more in my product than they would in anybody else? Then you need to look at your actual market. Can it sustain that? Can people pay the price that I would need to cover from the cost of my product? And if they can't, you shouldn't be doing that business.
Yes.
Because to say that I'm going to start off, you're starting off on the wrong foot. Rather look for another niche. Rather try and target to change your product. It's what I was saying about evolve.
Yes.
So rather shift it and find a niche that you could then maybe charge a bit of a premium to cover your costs. Organic is a big thing at the moment. Using natural products, no preservatives.
Yes.
People are prepared to pay for those things. I mean, I certainly am. So,
which brings me into exactly my next question, which is that, with the current economic climate, many families are looking at entrepreneurship because it's just not sustainable. Many people are getting retrenched. How do you find your niche market? How do you identify? Do you base it on what you're looking at around you? Do you base it on, if somebody had to bring a proposal to you, what becomes the winner for you in terms of what they identify as a niche market?
Look, for me, is if somebody has actually done their homework in terms of their product. So if they have put forward a proposal where they can say, this is the market that I'm looking at. So you need to identify your market to start off with. Okay. For example, if I'm a shoe manufacturer, I can make ladies' shoes, I can make men's shoes, I can make sports shoes, or I can make heels fashion shoes. So you need to decide, okay, what your passion is. It's about the one thing I find in life is if you do anything with passion, okay, and if you have a passion for that, okay, and you focus on that, that will be the winner. Okay, yes. But obviously there has to be a market. Okay, so it's a combination of product and finding the right market. Okay, and trying to attract that market at the appropriate price. So that's basically your combination. So what I would actually say is that to look to yourself as in what you're passionate about. So, for example, I am passionate about shoes. I think I mentioned that to you earlier. So I would like to look at fashion shoes. I wouldn't want to do school shoes, for example. So then I would say, then I need a designer. I need a superb designer, or if I am a designer, who can deliver me the kind of shoes that my market, am I meeting the needs of my market? So what is the fashion trends? You have to keep up to date. It's all about hard work at the end of the day. It's a lot of work.
I think that's, you've just hit the nail on the head about the fact that we often forget the amount of effort that goes into it and the amount of work. We were discussing recently in a conversation about what makes the difference between a successful person and someone who is getting by. And the answer all came out to being somebody who puts in those extra hours while everyone else is asleep, is willing to work hard. Nuria, we've got this conversation between you and I can go on for much longer, but I know we are running short on time. The one thing that I I'm a huge supporter of is Proudly South African Goods, because I think that anybody that is an entrepreneur in South Africa, you're not only improving your own life, but by creating employment, you're building up our country. So I really do urge all our viewers, really support people that are proudly South African based, that are proudly South African companies. And if you feel you have what it takes to be a proudly South African company, get in touch with people like Nureya. Get in touch with facilities that are affording you that ability to be able to take your business to the next level, to be an entrepreneur. And I think, like you said, we forget, or actually we don't even know how much of this is actually available for all of us.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being on air with us
Thank
today,
you for
and
having
for
me.
enlightening us on and kickstarting Global Entrepreneurship Month for us with so much of information that I have no doubt we're going to get a lot of feedback from it. I'm sure you'll get a lot of calls, and I know it'll stand a lot of people in good stead going forward as well. Are there any closing remarks from your side?
I think we need to, as women and as entrepreneurs in this country, we need to learn to be kind to ourselves.
Yes.
That is the first lesson that I've learned in life, is that we need to start off by being kind to ourselves, kind to others, and everything else will flow from that.
I love that. I think that's so much in keeping with what we've started 2017 with every person who's been on the show. The sentiment has resonated over and over again. It's about not just showing kindness to everyone else around us, but to show kindness to ourselves as well. And with that, we'll be closing off this segment of the show. Stay tuned as we come back.
من هو وصل؟
زمر باص المدرسة صوت على قلبي عسل، يلا يا باص المدرسة خدنا على درب الأمل. زمر باص المدرسة صوت على قلبي عسل، يلا يا باص المدرسة خدنا على درب الأمل. جايين للمدرسة جايين، نشاط واحنا راجعين، جايين راجعين لمنبر العلم، جايين راجعين نحقق الحلم. يلا تمنى أمنية وانسى الأمان المالية، احلم وشوف مستقبلك في المرتبات العالية، عالية عالية. ضابط بيها من زمان، قلبي قوي ماني جبان، احمي حدودك يا وطن في كل ثغرة من الأمان. من يوم كنت عصفورة واهلي ندوني دكتورة، وبكرة احقق حلمهم واحلامي وابقى مشهورة. نفسي اصير احسن مذيع يسمعني هالكون الوسيع، احلم اوصل فكرتي يحكيها اسلوبي البديع. مهمة الادارة انا لها بجدارة، كل شركة بيدي بكرة تصير منارة. سجل لي اختياري بالهندسة معماري، من شان اشيد بكرة دياركم دياري. وانا بعد كل الفنون تعشقني واعشقها بجنون، ودي اصير مصممة ازياء اكون او لا اكون. هذا صباحك يا بلد بدينا بسم الله احد.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to iTREND on ITV. We're done with the first segment, which kicked off Global Entrepreneurship Month, and now we're sitting and our studio has been transformed. If you have a look at our tables, we are going to be very entertained because we are sitting with the very famous Al Franco, who runs DIY with Al. Welcome to the studio.
Hey, welcome. Thank you. I mean, thank you for
I can
having
see
me.
you usually in the driver's seat.
I usually am, so I'm like, hey, how's it going? Everybody, we're on ITV. No.
It's such a pleasure to have you on. And
Thank
I know
you.
that you've got a number of activities for us. We've always had such fabulous feedback whenever we've done anything creative on our show, because people are always replicating it at home. So you were just the right person to get into the studio today.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that there's some creative fans watching, which is
Very
great.
much so. I'm completely creatively stunted. So I go step by step according to what you're planning on
Good.
doing.
Well, I'm a DIY presenter, so I aim to, how can I say, inspire you to do
Fantastic.
DIY, people to do DIY, because you don't understand what you can do with your own hands and knowledge, and if you just practice and you get to know the tools, and the next minute you're creating such wonderful things for your home, which is what I aim to do, is aim to inspire people to do it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're going to chat a little bit about you during the
Awesome.
event. Tell us what you've got planned for us today.
Okay, well, what I got planned was, this is a really cool DIY project, is this tin can one over here. one thing I love with DIY is basically upcycling, okay? So it's using junk that you would have thrown away and turning it into something better, like giving it a new life. It's awesome. And that's one of my favorite things is upcycling in DIY. Or you can use tin cans like this, off-cut wood, you know, those little pieces that you don't know what to do with after you've made something else. I promise you, the list is endless on what you can do with upcycling, brand new projects, a bit of paint, a bit of spray paint. And look at this, look how handy this is. Oh, it's quite heavy. It's got all my stuff in from the shop, so I made sure I brought all my tools with.
I love how clever this is.
Yeah,
because mums can use this for stationery as well. Just keep it easy on your desk.
I say at my live DIY shows, I'm like, guys, you can use it for your crafting, your paintbrushes, or this one was in the kitchen for a while. You put some serviettes on this side and knife and forks as well. Carry it outside when you have a braai. You know,
everything's
the uses
ready.
are endless. You can make it your own and you can use it for what you need it for.
And I know that every Indian household has tons of extra Tupperwares, glasses and tins. So now you know what to use your tins for as well.
Exactly. And I love reusing stuff. So I can show you, let's start off. Oh, then the other project is, this is more of a decorative DIY, should I say. It's called a rope mirror. I do have a YouTube video on it, but I would like to show you live right now.
Yes, please, because I need things
on
like
how
that.
to do it. Basically, you won't believe it. The glue and the products and materials with DIY that they come up with now are just getting so much better, so much more refined and so much more innovative that, like, sticking rope to a mirror with glue and it lasts for years hanging on the wall is fantastic. So you do a little, how can I say, a perimeter around the rope mirror, and then we'll tie some knots. We'll learn a bit of some sailing knots.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's a figure-8 knot, and then you can hang it on the wall, and it's so inexpensive. All you need are these 3 things to do it is the frameless round mirror, rope, and glue.
Great. So what are we getting started with today?
I think let's start with the tin caddy first.
Perfect.
Okay, because the rope mirror is a little bit more
that.
quicker and a little bit more fun. So I'm just going to place this over here. Usually I have
This
my
is like
tool belt on.
Serious stuff today.
It is serious stuff. I love my tools. And the thing is, I also show ladies how to use tools as well, because you think that it's more complicated than what it is, because it never is.
I think the males have just made us feel like that, so we go nowhere near it.
Maybe, because I understand, because you kind of like, this is my drill. So maybe that's where they came from. But basically, once you get to use it, you're like, oh my word. And then you gravitate to the next tool and the next tool and a bigger tool. And next minute, you have a shop like me.
So this is the start of how we get involved with these things.
Yeah. Always start. So let me just give you DIY as a tip out there. This is one of the tips I like to give everyone. Is yes, power tools are quite intimidating. I think that's why a lot of women don't lift up a power drill or a jigsaw and whatnot. Do your homework, buy one first. And the first one that you buy is the guy we got here. It's a cordless power drill because its uses are endless, and you can put up shelves, you can put up things on the wall and paintings, you can fix things with it. So this is number 1. But there are 3 tools that I think you should add to your workshop, your starter kit, if you're getting started in DIY. And the 3 are just to limit expenditure, because sometimes you buy the wrong tools.
Yes.
Like everyone goes and buys an angle grinder.
And gets very excited about going there and then doesn't know what to do with it once it's at their house.
So the 3 tools are, you need a power drill, a sander, and a jigsaw. And those 3 will start you off on the most awesome projects and keep you going for a relatively long time before you have to add more complex power tools to it.
So this ties in with what Nureya was saying. When you need some me time and some time for me, you can start doing DIY.
Exactly, and turn it into business as well.
There we go. It's entrepreneurship,
Do you know,
me
it
as
is
well.
entrepreneurship. The thing is, I'm passionate about presenting, and I'm passionate about DIY. I've done DIY with my family growing up in the household. We were always together, mom and dad, and always painting pots and fixing things. What you do is, look, I don't have as much tips as the lady before me. She was great, by the way. But passion. Passion is a huge thing of mine, and that drives the ball game.
Before we start on the project, we're going to have a quick ad break just so that we can get ready. And when we come back, we'll be starting on our project 1. Welcome back to iTREND as we get your creative juices flowing. Al, tell us, I mean, you've literally just put together 3 pieces of wood that actually look like it was already constructed here.
Yeah, okay, so the
What
thing
are we
is,
making first?
All right, so the thing is, what I love is like some handyman shops, homemakers shops, like builders, right? They have a wood cutting service for you. So you can get these cut to size. You buy your piece of wood, and then you get it cut to your size that you want. Now, I just want to show you that I've probably measured this about 18 centimeters long, and then this is just as high as the can, or
Great.
can be a little bit higher, but never shorter than the can, because then you'll find it hard to find the handle. They cut the wood for you, which is great.
So it makes it much easier.
So it makes it much easier for the really beginner DIYs, but I did cut this with, you can cut it with either jigsaw or circular saw. I know I'm throwing some saw words out there, or my compound saw, which is I use. But once you learn how to cut wood, then you know how to get your measurements right. So everything's 18, the same length. Then I have the spine, I have the base. This is the base, I have the spine, and then I have how this project came about is I was left over with this somewhere from the cutting of the wood, and he gave it to me at Builders, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to put this on the side here, and then this is going to be the paper side.
I love it.
Yeah. So as you see here, what you have to do with any DIY project is you have to plan, obviously, because then you'll be redoing it over and over again, which you don't want.
And then you'll say, DIY is just not for me.
Yeah, and then you go, DIY is not for me, but then you're like, but why is it not for me? It's because I didn't plan. So don't be like me and rush it in the beginning. Now I've learned that planning is key. So here we go. We can see more or less, this is more or less the finished product, what we're aiming for over there. Okay, for our tool caddy. Let's call it the tool caddy. So there's a number of elements that we have to do. When working with wood, it's always good to have some wood glue, some wood screws, wood drill bits as well to drill in some holes if you need. But there's a little catch to this project is you would need some metal drill bits. Why? Because we're drilling into tin here. And it's not that hard, it's not difficult. You could actually even just pierce this with a hammer and a screwdriver, but let's be fancy and use the drill and do the proper drill bits. So I think
look very professional by the end of
this. Yes, and look really cool. I mean, just hold that.
Hey, listen, this is,
just
I'm
do
going to take my picture with this.
Yes, and everyone looks cool with some sort of power tool in their hand instantly. So here we go. I'm going to give it that much space. Like I said, I just measured the 3. This is the little handle in here that goes on top for later. You can paint it, guys. That's why I have some paint here and paint. That's the fun part, is always making your project look beautiful as opposed to building it. Right, so let's get some wood glue. Wood glue dries in about 10 minutes, so you can have a cup of coffee while it's drying. And what this does is, yes, you can go in with wood screws first hand, but sometimes then you screw it in wrong and it falls apart while you're trying to screw it in and make it extra secure. So the wood glue is the first step. So we're just going to put a little bit on here.
So this is easy. How did you even, I know you said this has been a family thing since you were very young, but what made you decide to turn this into a profession?
Well now, it kind of came to me, which is wonderful. It found me, as I said. Yeah, I always love presenting. I want to be on TV. Hi, I'm on TV. I wanted to be on TV and present. And it's very congested. It's very complex. It's a very tough industry. And everyone not felt sorry for me, but everyone was like, whoa, you want to be a TV presenter? You got to start either when you're 8 years old or you got to only get a job when you're 50. But I persevered, and it found me to a point where builders were looking for a presenter, not necessarily a person who knows DIY. And I just lucky to phone them and say, I can present, and by the way, I love doing stuff with my hands. So they were like, yay, and then it just all started from there about 2 years ago.
See, that also just ties in so much with what Nerea was saying, which is about persevering, about being passionate about it and truly believing in it, regardless of how many people say no to you.
Oh my goodness. Can I tell you, perseverance and passion are the things that will drive you in your career or your entrepreneurship, anything. If you're not passionate about it, I don't know what's going to help you on those days where nothing's moving, where nothing's going forward, where you feel you're going backwards and nothing's going on. It's the passion. And I get into a zone. I love making things with my hands, and then I love talking about it.
And there you got a whole combination
there. Why not? We would love that. So that's going to dry. Let's move on to the cans. Right, so how are we going to attach the cans? Is you could glue them. That's fine, but you want your project to last a bit longer, and it depends if you're putting only pencils and crayons and paintbrushes in there, but I'm working with quite some heavy stuff, so if this gets a bit heavy, it might fall off in some time. When
And this is actually very secure, I must just say. You could actually lift it up just by the can alone.
You can. Please don't. But
I
you
won't.
can. No, I'm joking. You can. Like the can. Here we go, guys. So, thing with a power drill, have you ever used a power drill?
No, so this is the first.
This is a first,
Yes.
okay. Besides looking cool, which is one of the main reasons why we use one.
And even in hijab, you can still look cool with a power drill.
Yes. Anyone. Okay, so basically I've inserted a drill bit into here. Drill bits are used to make holes. You get wood, masonry, and metal. Wood is for wood, masonry is for wall, metal
Perfect.
for tin. So I've inserted it in my chuck. Check that it's driving forward, which is going to the right. You have the reverse settings here.
Great.
And then that does all the work for you.
Perfect.
So we're going to hold this over here. And in the center, whoop. Okay, that wasn't even hard. I didn't use any of my muscle, nothing, no standing on top of it. Tin is relatively very thin metal. So now what that does is we can open these tiny little screws, which we're going to drive in with a screwdriver, because sometimes you don't want to overkill too much with the power drill. Let me do it upside down, but in there, so that on the underside is going to screw into the wood, and that's what keeps the cans.
Perfect.
So basically, I'm just going to drop it in there. It's better to actually use a magnetized, yay.
So it
drop it in there.
goes in very easy.
Yep.
Perfect.
Well, now the magnet's like sticking to the tin. So you get the
That
hang
is
of
low.
this. There we go. It's through. Now what I'm going to do, sorry, can I lean over
With
you
pleasure,
for a bit?
please do.
Little bit of elbow grease. Nothing ever hurts anyone with using a bit of elbow grease. And basically is I find the groove of the wood, hold on.
And
this
just push
magnet-
it into it.
Yeah. And you just, it's such a small screw that basically, here we go. So we're finding the wood. Okay, that's not
Perfect.
working. Basically, you screw it in. Maybe if I bring it closer to me
Yeah.
during the ad break.
We'll do
We
that.
screw it in, and then this grabs onto the wood just a little bit, and you just need to press.
And just turn it in.
Keep it very, very straight, perpendicular, and just press and turn it in, and do one to each of the cans.
Perfect.
Then this is going to dry. We're going to drive some screws in the bottom, add on the handle, and then you can
Perfect.
use it already.
So very quickly, because I know we are running short on time,
Yeah.
before we move on to the next one. The handles are things that you could just find anywhere, and same story, just screw it in and it's done.
Exactly. Now, I just want to give you a little tip with this handle is don't go buy cabinet handles, because that you have to go on the underside and you can't get to the underside because it's quite tall. Get a handle that you screw from the top where you can
Brilliant.
see the screws, because that is going to be the easier way to attach it. And again, you can do it with a screwdriver, the magnetized screw, screw it in, and that, I'm very stubborn. You've got to
I
be
know.
stubborn with DIY. I'm like, I'm going to tackle this now
And make
get
sure it
in
gets
there.
done.
Yeah.
Perfect. So while we're waiting for this to dry, can
Yeah.
we quickly do the mirror?
The rope mirror, yeah.
Yes.
Let me just show you that.
We will be putting up links at the bottom of our page to all of Elle's pages as well, and her YouTube videos. So whatever we aren't able to get through in today's session, you will get it on her channel and her videos.
Exactly. Okay. Let me just explain it to you. It's super easy. You lay down your flat mirror. These you can buy at Builders. It's a panel mirror, obviously, and round. Round works, okay? This is a very nautical feel DIY decor project. Nautical meaning like the sea
Yes.
and stuff like that. So you have your adhesive glue. Clear would be nice, guys. Don't buy that yellowy glue, because if you mess, then people are going to see it. When you mess with see-through glue, no one sees it. So what you're
love
going to
that.
do is you're going to grab your rope. And yes, you do get messy doing DIY, as you can see. All sorts get on your clothing and that, but I don't really mind, because that's half the
I'm
fun.
sure our kids will love that as
That's
well.
half the fun. So what you're going to do
Let me
is
just lift this
you
up
measure the
here.
circumference of the mirror with any of your chosen rope, right? You're going to cut it with those heavy-duty scissors over there. And then when you cut it, you're going to glue it on how much you need.
Perfect.
And then you're going to glue another rim on the inside after that, and then another one, and just with the see-through glue. And you can use tape to hold it into place, because this glue takes 10 minutes to make contact, 24 hours for security.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so then once you do that, and you have enough layers, you can go down right to the center here and only have a little bit. But I glue about 3 to 4, just so it goes in there, layers. And I always line up the frayed edges on either side of the on the mirror,
Yes.
directly opposite. Why? Because later on, I make a figure 8 knot, under, over, through, under, over, through. That's the little tip, but it's all on my DIY video. You can see why they call it a
Yes.
figure 8 knot, hey? This, I then put generous amounts of glue, put a knot on the other side, and then I stick it over the 2 frayed edges, and that's your hanging mechanism.
Perfect. So
So-
that ends up hanging off
Like
from
that,
that end.
and another knot on that end with your circular rope attached to the mirror and your frayed edges covered by the figure 8 knot, and it looks really, really nice. And you can hang 3 side by side, a couple of different sizes all on the wall. It's really such a beautiful.
And like you said, it's something
easy
so
project.
easily that can be done. You can do it with your kids. Your kids can end up doing this without you, actually.
Exactly, they actually can, because it's glue and it's a mirror and it's rope, and if they want to get messy with it and make it their own, perfect. I always say, guys, DIY is a interpretation of your personality, and it always comes out in your DIY project. So paint it whatever color you want, make it however high, however big, how many cans. Like I made mine short, make yours long if you need to, you know, store a lot of stuff in the house and keep it out the way.
It's one way to sort it out. I love that idea because I think it's a perfect idea for braais as well, and we make sure that it comes through.
Yes, mine I've left very rustic because it's in the garage, so you can grab some
Yes.
sandpaper and sandpaper those edges and spray them beautifully, and then you can use stencils for the house. But because that's in my garage workshop, I've left it quite tin and wood and quite, you know, plain.
I'm looking at this, and I think for someone like me who, in my study, just to have my mail on one side and have all my stationery, because I'm forever looking for a pen or a pair of scissors or something. So this
Exactly.
works wonderfully well.
It does.
Al, any last words in terms of just encouraging everyone? I know you've given us the first 3 tools that we need to get.
Yes.
What are the basics? Any of your favorite activities that we can look for on your YouTube channels that'll just kickstart our passion into DIY?
Okay, well, first of all, you got to be passionate about DIY, obviously, but second of all, you need to find inspiration. So I find inspiration online, on social media, with other DIYers, interact, come and see me at like a homemaker show I was at last week. And what happens is when someone's passionate and they're doing it, you automatically feel inspired for you to do it.
Yes.
And that's what's going to get you going. Then if you need a bit more of inspiration, a bit more like, how can I say, images to work towards, and then you can manipulate it and change it to suit your taste and what you need it for, Pinterest, YouTube, social media. It's actually, there's a DIY community out there, which I'm quite excited, you know, like the fashion
Yes.
community, where they're sharing their pics and how you do this, how did you find this drill, and tool reviews. And what I'm doing now is I'm just adding my little bit into it with DIY with Elle. And you can also catch me on the home channel starting from next
Fantastic.
week, giving you all new DIY and decor tips and tricks for the home, along with my other 2 presenters.
We absolutely love it. So we can't wait to have you back on the show. Your
Yes.
space will be waiting
Yes,
here whenever
thank
you're
you.
ready
I've
to come
loved
back.
it. I've absolutely loved it.
We had a very quick segment on DIY, and I promise you, if you just Google, you get to those YouTube channels, and as Elle said, there are so many other blog spaces like Pinterest all over the net where you can find activities to get you going. Use it as a form of relaxation. I think it's all tied in, as we said earlier, about being kind to yourself. But in Global Entrepreneurship Month, this is also something you can look at if you are creative with your hands. It's something that
Definitely.
you can look at about pursuing as a business. And I know off air, because Al is very keen to get back to those tins again and to drill into them. It takes perseverance, but if you are committed to doing it, you can do just about anything with anything that you have at your disposal. And what I love is when you're looking into the box that Al has brought with us, it's things that you have around the house. That are lying around the house, and let's upcycle. I love that word. It's not just things that we're throwing away. It's not just things that we're saying it's junk or we're going out to buy something else. It's upcycling what we have. I
It sounds
absolutely
quite
love
fancy,
it.
doesn't
It sounds
it?
very fancy.
Oh, darling, I upcycled this just the other day, and people will be like, ooh, fancy.
You see, so you can make DIY very fancy, and you can make it something that's in your home and something that's very common. So I thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
It's been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have
I've
you
had
here.
a wonderful time. Thank
And
you.
I promise you, her energy is completely addictive, because I feel like I want to sit here now. I want that drill, and I want to start with it as well.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us on air. Stay tuned with us for the rest of this month as we showcase entrepreneurs in our community who have taken that step, who are building their businesses, and who are showing us what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I'm sure each one has got a different story. Feel free to also share your comments with us. Tag us on people that you would like to profile on the show. And we look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ah, السلام